Hello everyone, welcome to the answer writing program. Today we will be discussing 3 questions from GS2 International Relations, and the topic would be India and its neighborhood. Let's take an overview of all the 3 questions. So the first question is about India and Maldives relation, second is about India's and Bhutan's relation, and the third is about India and China's relation. Let's start one by one. The first question is, briefly discuss the multifaceted relationship between India and Maldives. So this is the first demand of the question. Suggest some measures to strengthen the partnership. So we need to tell the measures how to strengthen the partnership between these two countries in the light of emerging geopolitical realities. First, let's discuss how we have to write about the international relations questions, especially introduction and conclusion. So in introduction, you can be just ready with some templates like the bilateral relationship with the countries. So what you can do, you can ready with the templates like the historical backgrounds, how are the bilateral ties till now. So this is some historical thing or the history on the basis of the historical evolution of the bilateral relationships, or you can also write about the context, like if there is any differentiated opinion at the multilateral forum, if there are any challenges in the bilateral relationship in the contemporary times or in the current domain. So you can write with the fodder. You can write the fodder material in the introduction. And finally, in conclusion, again, you can write the context based or how to improve the bilateral relations and what is the importance of strengthening so as to maintain the mutual trust and the cordial relationship in the Indian Ocean region. So you can write, you can be ready with these templates, you can be very well aware about the international happenings, about any of the country has taken the stand in favor or in against at the multilateral forums, etc. So you can be ready with this fodder material, and wherever suitable, you can write these fodder material in the introduction, in the examples, in the main body part, in the different subheads, and finally in the conclusion as well. Okay, so let's start with the introduction of this particular question. So the question is about India and Maldives relation. So what we can do, we can write the historical background that till now we have the very well cordial and the mutually trusted historical and the cultural ties between these two countries, but recently the situations like Prime Minister visit to Lakshadweep followed by hate comments by Maldivian ministers, and also the hashtag go back or the boycott India, etc. So these are some recent context that why India-Maldives relationship is in news. So you should be well aware with these ties, with these happenings. So all these contexts you can write in the introduction. Moving on to the body part. In body, the question is asking about the multifaceted relationship between India and Maldives. So what we can do? We can write on the various subheads, various dimensions, like how are the strategic relations, economic, defense, tourism, etc. So the question is about the multifaceted relations. So we have to write on the different dimensions of the relations between these two countries. Starting with the strategic relations, India's neighborhood first policy, and also from the Maldivian side, India's first policy. So these have always strengthened the mutual cooperation and the mutual trust between these two countries. And also India is always the first responder to Maldives. Like take an example of Operation Cactus, when people tried to do the coup in the Maldives in 1885. So India, via its interference, has halted that operation of coup in Maldives. Second is about India is always at the front hand or the front foot to give the assistance, like in example of 2004 tsunami, water crisis in 2014. Next is about providing 30,000 missile dosages or the vaccines in 2020. Finally, the integrated or the holistic support at the times of COVID-19. Also, India is a net security provider in this particular region via like India is very keen in taking the security and the safety measures in Indian Ocean region. So thus, via this contributing to the Sagar vision, security and growth for all in Indian Ocean region. Then coming on to the economic relationship, as the Maldivian economy is majorly dependent on the tourism, and for tourism India is one of the major source of the visitor from India to Maldives. Second is about the trade agreement. India is the second largest bilateral trade partner in 2022 of Maldives. Next is about also the RBI and the Maldivian Central Bank has come up with the USD currency swap agreement to increase the bilateral trade. Then coming on to the infrastructural development, the largest ever infrastructure project in Maldives, that is GMCP, Greater Malay Connectivity Project, India is doing. Also, defense cooperation, they are regularly exercising the joint exercises, military exercises, and also India is providing the training opportunities and the capacity building procedures to the Maldivian military also. Next is about Indian diaspora. Doctors, teachers are there, the expatriate Indians are there, and majorly they are involved in the doctors and the teachers profession. Next is about education and healthcare. You can also write about the different initiatives that India is taking with respect to education and healthcare in Maldivian economy. Next, coming on to the measures to strengthen the relation, as we have already discussed in introduction, the recent issues or the challenges that have emerged out by the recent visit of Prime Minister Modi to Lakshadweep, and how this has emerged as the major tension zone between Maldives and India. So what we can do to improve or to strengthen the relationship? So the first is about the communication. Again, we can write on the different subhead, like at the communication at the track 1, diplomacy, high level diplomatic engagements would be there. Second is about the track 2, diplomacy, and also at the people to people, we should increase the communication between people to people. So all the stakeholders at the different levels should be incorporated to enhance the communication at this particular time to reduce the tensions or to reduce the escalation of the tensions between these two countries. Next is about the respect sovereignty. We should also, as the bigger state and also the role we are playing as a net security provider in this particular region, so we should also respect sovereignty of the other smaller nations as well. Next is about engage all the stakeholders. This can be merged with this thing. And next is about the cultural and educational exchange. So we should move beyond the tourism bilateral relations only. So we should enhance our relationship with increasing cultural exchanges, with increasing economic ties, the political ties, etc. Again, economic diversification. So we should move beyond tourism and should support in the various industries or the various initiatives, like Maldives, again the island nation. So what we can take a stand for that, as the climate change is a reality. So what we can do, we can involve or we can be more proactive in the renewable energy projects, or we should make some correlation with respect to the climate change also. Next is about the security cooperation. We should establish a robust security framework for that, and we should more collaborate on the security on the maritime especially. Next is about the multilateral collaboration. So we should also utilize the multilateral forum to strengthen the bilateral relationship and also the multilateral relationships between the various organizations. Next is about conclusion. So what we can write in conclusion? So we should ensure the stability and the growth, because the Maldivian position or the situation or the location of the Maldives is such that it is on the major sea lines of the communication, and also the Chinese increasing influence via its BRI and the String of Pearls initiative, and Maldives can be more proactive towards the Chinese influence. So to counteract that, India should increase or strengthen the bilateral relationship, because India cannot afford some other hostile nation in its neighborhood. So this way you can write the conclusion. Moving on to the model answer, starting with the introduction, that multifaceted relationship, political relation, economic relation, defense, Indian diaspora, tourism, etc. Then how are the measures to strengthen the Indian and the Maldivian relation, multiple measures for that, and finally some conclusion. Moving on to the next question. Discuss the challenges posed by China's growing influence in Bhutan. China's growing influence in Bhutan and how it impacts India's security interests. This is the first part. Second part is about suggest strategies to mitigate these challenges and strengthen Indo-Bhutan strategic partnership. So again, we need to write some measures or strategies to mitigate these challenges of Chinese growing influence in Bhutan. So again, in introduction, we can write about the historical ties that for Bhutan, India has always been the strongest ally to Bhutan, and always there are the very good and the cordial relationship between these two countries. But in the recent time, as the Chinese influence is growing in this particular region, so this has taken a stance so that it can hamper the security of India's security interest in this particular region. Moving on to the body part, we need to write some challenges posed by Chinese influence. So first we can write about the strategic encirclement. China, through its BRI or the String of Pearls policy, it has boosted up its infrastructural projects in Bhutan also, which can later be culminated into the military bases for that. So again, it poses the significant challenge or the fear for India also, because it is the the Bhutan as a country, it's a neighbor of India, and it's very nearby located to the very vulnerable Siliguri corridor. So if China's growing influence is in this particular region, so this poses direct threat to the India's security and the strategic interests also. Next is about the border disputes. As we have seen in the Doklam standoff and its significance to the India's security interest in this particular region, like the Doklam standoff, and because it's on the tri-junction of Bhutan, China and India, and any collaboration between China and Bhutan can be of the fear or the threat to the India's security interest on that part. Next is about weakening buffer state, because Bhutan acts as a buffer state between China and India, and if China's growing influence on Bhutan would be there, it means that would not act as an independent state, or the sovereignty or the autonomy of the Bhutan cannot be appropriated. So if the Chinese influence would be more on Bhutan as a state, so it can be a weakened buffer state between India and Bhutan, China. So it can again put a threat on the India's security posture. Next is about limited leverage. If the Chinese growing influence is there in Bhutan, India can have the limited leverage to do the bilateral and the multilateral propositions with Bhutan. So it can influence the regional dynamics as well. Next is about how what should be the mitigating strategies or the measures to address these challenges and strengthen the bilateral relations. So first is, we need to re-engage on the economic front, like India's investment should be increased, because the Chinese investment is increasing day by day in the hydropower projects, in the road investment. So India now should take a re-stand to increase its investment in Bhutan. Then India should also see towards the aid packages and respecting, because the Bhutan is in the eco-fragile zone in the Himalayas. So India should also foster the relations with respect to the infrastructural development via taking this environmental sensitivity in considerations. Next is about border resolution. Collaborative efforts should be there between the three countries, Bhutan, China and India, and diplomatic solutions should be there. Next is about enhanced security cooperation. So because India, Bhutan being the landlocked country, so India can provide a major export zone or the free passage to the Indian Ocean region as well. So again, for the joint exercises and intelligence sharing and capacity building, that could bolster the Bhutan's self-defense training as well, that can deter the Chinese partners on that other front. Next is about the soft power and the cultural ties. So again, India can leverage historical ties for the people to people connection. Already we have a very good connections. We cannot make it to deteriorate via Chinese growing influence in this particular region. Next is about multilateral partnerships, involving Bhutan in the regional initiatives, in the multilateral initiatives for its diplomatic support, so that Bhutan can also raises its concern on the different front, like we can promote its partnership in the regional initiatives like Indo-Pacific Economic Corridor and Quad. So this way we can write some measures to mitigate these challenges. Next is about conclusion. Again, we can write about that we cannot afford to lose one good ally or with good partner in its neighborhood. So we need to strengthen the partnership, taking the considerations of that growing influence of China is there. So again, we can write the summary of the key strategies to strengthen India-Bhutan relation in conclusion, or we can write about emphasis on the proactive and multi-pronged approach towards this improvement of the relations, and also we can write about that importance of safeguarding Bhutan as a valued strategic partner. Moving on to the model answer, starting with the introduction, some challenges, then mitigating measures, finally conclusion. Moving on to the next question. Discuss the complexities in Sino-India relations and the strategic measures. So we need to write some nuances or the complexities in India and China relation and the strategic measures. Again, we have two parts. First is about the complexities and second is about the measures, so as to ensure or to manage these complexities and ensure the regional stability. In introduction, we can write about the different multifaceted nature of India-China relation. We can write about the historical, geopolitical and economic dimensions, that at what front India's economic trade is with China, India's dependence on some products, some goods explicitly from China. We can also write about some historical ties. We can also start with the the war between these two nations. So it's like any way, whatever suits you the best, you can write some background. Then if any improvement or any deterioration in the recent time between these bilateral relationships, you can continue with that thing towards the body. In body, we need to write down the key dimensions. So again, we have to write the multifaceted or the complexities at the different front. So at the first, we can write about the border disputes in the western and the eastern part. Middle part is somewhat settled, but there are always the issues or the challenges with respect to the western part, borders and the eastern part, like the Galwan standoff, the Arunachal Pradesh, always there is an issue in Arunachal Pradesh area. Again, then Galwan Valley clash, Doklam clash, Aksai Chin, there are issues in that. So you can write about the dispute in all these fronts as well. Next is about the historical legacy. The impact of 1962 India-China war, it still has the negative repercussions. They hinders the mutual trust and the cooperation between these two nations. Next is about the geopolitical competition. As these two countries are growing, they are developing and approaching towards the status of being a developed state. So they are the competitors in this particular region, Indo-Pacific region or in the South Asian region. So the regional influence, they are trying to impact more and more via their different initiatives, like the China has come up with this Belt and Road Initiative, and India is also doing multiple initiatives at the various fronts. Next is about Tibet and the Dalai Lama issue. India's hosting of the Dalai Lama and the Tibetan government in exile in India is viewed as an interference in the sovereignty or the autonomy of the China. Next is about strategic partnership with USA and Japan of India is again perceived as the containment efforts by China. Next is about water security and Brahmaputra river, because Brahmaputra river originates in China region. So if any construction of the dams or if any hampering of the water flow in China can cause the concerns about the alteration in the dam constructions, and always there are the issues with respect to the water flow with respect to China towards India. Next is about cyber security concerns. Again, there are always the mutual accusations of cyber activities impacting the security or the integrity of the countries. Next is about the strategic measures, what we can take to improve these complexities or to improve the relationships and ensure the regional stability. First is about, again, we need to seek out the engagement at the diplomatic front, at the various diplomatic front, like the track 1, track 2, people to people ties. And again, we need to incorporate the different stakeholders for increasing engagement and to enhance the communication. Next is about conflict resolution mechanism. We can utilize the special representative talks and the CBM's confidence building measures between these two countries, between the armies or the paramilitary forces between these two countries across the borders, so as to tackle the challenges and to stop to escalate the tensions between these two defense forces. Next is about economic cooperation. Again, we need to leverage the economic interdependencies between these two nations and to enhance the trade instead of being a competitor and to take a standoff against each other. Also, these two countries can enhance or they can invest together joint implementation of the different regional developmental projects. Next is about the strategic communication. So enhancing communication strategies to manage the public perception and to prevent the misinformation, again to tackle the distrust what is spreading all over the countries. Again, second thing is about the we need to open the military and the diplomatic channels so as to prevent the misinformation. Next is about the strategic autonomy. We need to pursue a balanced foreign policy for diversified partnership, because to mitigate the interdependencies, like we are heavily dependent on some major products to get it imported to India from China. So we need to diversify our partnerships with the other nations as well. On any so we need to avoid these much dependency on any single nation. Finally, coming on to the conclusion. In conclusion, we can write about the summary, because majorly we have dealt in the main body part. So what we can write? We can write about, we can put some emphasis on the importance of understanding and like navigating through all these complexities so as to ensure the trust, so as to ensure the stability in South Asian, in Indo-Pacific region and Indian Ocean region as well. And there is a need for the stable and cooperative relations for the shared prosperity. This way also you can write this conclusion. Finally, seeing the model answer, starting with some very short and the crisp introduction, moving on to the several different dimensions between these two nations and how to navigate these challenges and ensuring the regional stability in this particular area, and finally coming up with the conclusion that via some strategic measures we can deal with this situation. So this was it from my side for today. Thank you and have a nice day and keep writing.